Johnny. Yeah, I mean, first, good morning, Hart.
Good morning, everybody. Can you please take your seats? And Marisol, are we? Okay. Good morning, everybody. For those of you participating on video, I think we are getting ready to start the meeting. Let me just double check. Yeah.
You want to do roll call, Eduardo?
We're ready.
You
You want to call the meeting to order? We're ready.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this regular meeting of the El Paso MPO. Today is March 20th, 2026. It is 9:09 a.m. This session is now in order. If we can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner O'Ginn, if you can lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We want to remind those who are attending virtually, we do need to have them on screen, on camera, in order for their attendance to count. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. If I can have the roll call, please.
All right. Chair Javier Perea, Vice Chair Commissioner Olguin,
Morning, President.
Senator Cesar Blanco, Representative Josh Acevedo, John Ando, Mayor Ramon Cano, Joseph Cervantes, Mayor Miguel Chacon, Aaron Chavarria, Representative Alejandra Chavez, Mayor Rudy Cruz, Anthony De Kaiser, Representative R. Fierro, Commissioner Gloria Gameros,
Present.
Representative Mary Gonzalez,
Present.
Yvette Hernandez, Mayor Gabriel Holguín.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Renard Johnson, Mayor Martin Lerma, Mayor Lerma, if you can unmute yourself. All right. Representative Joe Moody, Representative Eddie Morales, Tony Nevares, Representative Claudia Ordaz. Wonderful. Representative Vince Perez, Mayor Rachel Quintana,
Here.
Mayor Andres Renteria, Judge Ricardo Samaniego, Representative Sarah Silva, and Tomas Treviño.
Here.
All right, so we do have one.
We need audio confirmation of Mayor Lerma.
Present.
There you go.
Here we go.
Do you have quorum?
We do have quorum.
We also have Mr. Acevedo online.
I'm sorry, so just for the record, Representative Acevedo is here as well, present. And I'm sorry if I missed you, City Manager Dion Mack. Thank you. All right, so we do have quorum.
Fantastic. Go next to open comment.
No open comment.
The open comment, we'll go on to, there's a request to move item 10 to be the first item on the agenda for today. Any objection by the board? Hearing none. Item number 10, consider approval of amendments to the amended RMS 23 MTP and RMS 2025 to 2028. Do I need to read the whole thing or?
All right, so thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is really relatively it is straightforward. It is to amend the TIP to provide more funding for the right-of-way phase of the Border Highway Connector. So staff recommends approval. And for all of these items, we do have presentations, but so, we're ready to give you more information, but if not, we recommend approval.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve item number 10. I would entertain a motion.
Second.
Motion has been made, motion has been seconded. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Name. Abstentions, motion carries unanimously. Item 10 has been approved.
Can we move to item number 9 as well?
Any objections by the board? Hearing none, we'll do item number 9.
So item 9 is consider approval of amendments to the amended Regional Mobility Strategy, RMS 2050, Metropolitan Transportation Plan, and RMS 2025-2028 Transportation Improvement Program TIP to program the following projects. A, NEVI Anthony Project for fiscal year 2026, CSJ 5000-00261, using $1,226,250 of CAT 10 NEVI funds in fiscal year 2026. And B, NEVI Horizon Project, fiscal year 2026, CSJ 5000-00267, using $936,250 of Category 10 NEVI funds in fiscal year 2026. Again, we're ready with a presentation.
At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 9.
So moved.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Do we need a presentation? All right, seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Nay. Abstentions, motion carries unanimously. Item number 9 has been approved.
All right.
Any other requests?
Yes, if we could move to, again, take all the action items because I'm afraid that we may lose quorum. So the apologies for the moving around in the agenda here. Go to item number 5.
Any objection to addressing item 5 at this time? No. Hearing no objection,
All right, item 5 is consider authorizing the executive director to approve the statement of work between El Paso MPO and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ, for use of Texas Rider 7 state and local air quality planning grant funding, ozone, for work associated with air quality research and modeling at international border crossings. Again, this is part of the Rider 7 that we've been talking about. This is a continuous grant that we have been receiving funds to do air quality stuff. So on this one, we brought you the contract that was executed between the MPO and TCEQ, and then the next step is to approve the scope of work, which is what we brought to you. It's everything's in your package. Again, we have presentations, but happy to answer any questions. Or Claudia Valles, who's our expert here, is also here to answer any questions.
at this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 5.
Motion.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Discussion by the board.
So, Mr. Chair, for items 6 and 7, I'm sorry.
Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. Abstentions, motion carries unanimously. Item 5 has been approved.
Thank you. Again, for items 6 and 7, we're requesting to table these items for next meeting.
Any objections to postponing items 6 and 7 to the next board meeting? At this moment, no, seeing no objection. Motion to table. I have a motion to table. Well,
Second.
I'm going to use motion to postpone. Table is slightly different. Motion to postpone. Motion has been seconded. Motion has been made. Motion has been seconded. To postpone items 6 and 7 to the next regular board meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Abstentions. All right, motion carries unanimously. Items 6 and 7 have been postponed to the next regular board meeting.
All right, then moving on with item number 8. Consider authorizing the executive director to execute task order number 7 with WSP Inc. for support in the implementation activities identified in the approved Borderplex Safe Mobility Plan in an amount not to exceed $199,859.56. Again, this is sort of like the follow-up to the safety action plan that we completed last year. If you remember, we told you that we created a new committee called the Vision Zero Committee, which is going to help us guide the next steps in terms of implementing safety projects or actions within the region. All of this based on the safety action plan. So this is the final step, getting the scope of work approved so that the consultants can help us with that phase of the work. Again, we have Ann here with the presentation. If happy to give you more details.
At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 8. I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Motion has been seconded. Discussion by the board? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Will say nay. Abstentions. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 8 has been approved.
All right, so then now item number 11, consider authorizing the executive director to sign the First Amendment to Interlocal Agreement for Local Match International Border Crossing System-Wide Analysis to extend the termination date of the agreement from May 31, 2026 to July 31, 2027 with each of the following entities: A, City of El Paso; B, El Paso County; C, Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority; and D, New Mexico Department of Transportation. So just briefly on this, as you all know, we're currently working on what we call the IBC strategic plan with a grant that this board approved, $2 million, which carries a non-federal match of $403,000. That match was divided 3 ways between the City of El Paso County, and New Mexico DOT. The reason we have a fourth agreement there is because of the portion the portion from El Paso County, they requested to split it between using economic development funds, I believe, and the other part using vehicle registration fees that are managed through the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. So that's why we have 4 agreements. All 4 agreements are almost identical. And the issue here is that the termination date on all 4 is May 31 of 2026 in a couple of months. Because there was a lot of delays in finalizing the agreements, the advanced funding agreement with TxDOT and getting the final authority to initiate the work from the Federal Highway Administration, there was a lag. So we need to extend these agreements. It's a no cost. There's no changes in terms of the dollar amounts. The only thing that we need is a little more time to complete this. So the proposed new termination date is July of 2027, which should give us plenty of time to complete the study. So happy to answer any questions on that.
At this moment, I will entertain a motion to approve item number 11. I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Discussion by the board? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Abstentions. Motion carries unanimously. Item 11 has been approved.
All right, item number 12, Mr. Chair. Consider revisions to the El Paso MPO attendance policy requiring in-person attendance by TPB members at TPB meetings. So on this item, we felt it was necessary to bring it up to the board's attention. There's been a little bit of a discussion whether we should conduct the meetings in person or allow for virtual participation. This board adopted a policy back in June of 2022. This is right after obviously the pandemic, where the governor suspended all the Texas Open Meeting Act's features that required in-person participation. So when we came back and in 2021 to do these in-person meetings, the board passed a resolution to reaffirm that in order to be present, TPB members, or to account for being, participating in the meetings, they needed to be in person in the room to participate. So that was a policy in place. As you know, when we had the new council come in with Deborah, she noted the fact that there is an exception in the Open Meetings Act, in the Texas Open Meetings Act, that allows for virtual participation if this government entity covers more than 2 counties. In our case, we cover 3, which are Doña Ana County, Otero County, and El Paso County. So it is allowed, right, per the Open Meetings Act. However, the local governments have the ability to maybe do something a little bit more restrictive. So the policy is consistent with the Open Meetings Act. However, we thought it was a good idea to bring it back to the board to have more discussion if this board wishes to continue with the policy, which is to meet in person in order for you to count and not be considered absent, or to modify the policy or rescind the policy, whatever. So we brought it up here for discussion. If there is something else that the board would like to think about it, we can table this, but it is clear that the policy that was passed in 22 is in place. Now, one more thing, the policy also states and allows the chair to suspend the policy, right? Gives the chair the authority, the ability to do that, which is what we did for this meeting, because again, there could have been a little bit of confusion there. And for those that were already counting on participating by video, we didn't want to create a situation where they were counted absent because of this miscommunication or not having it this perfectly clear. So again, Mr. Chair, that's the purpose of bringing this here.
Any discussion by the board?
Is the policy reflected in the bylaws?
The bylaws are specific to what counts as an excused absence and not excused absence. In-person participation, I don't believe is specifically specific in the bylaw.
Is the policy reflected publicly? Is it available to the public? I
Yeah.
guess what I'm getting at is it posted somewhere? Whether we decide to stick with the policy or scrap the policy, I just want to make sure that the public is aware of the policy that we're operating under, just for transparency.
Yeah, I believe it is in our website. But again, it's something that, of course, maybe needs a little more attention, right? So, because again, it was a little bit of confusion not having that perfectly clear.
On my end, I do want to say, I'm sorry. I do want to say that I think we should amend the policy to remove that provision of having the chair having to approve it. Just being the fact that the dynamic of this board is so vast, this just creates another piece of workload that has to go into having a meeting. If we have that from the very beginning that you can attend virtually, be on camera, I think that just releases one less check mark that we have to take care of it if we're conducting every meeting. That's. I would agree.
Just to take a step back, Chair, I guess what problem were we solving when we implemented the new policy?
Well, that there was at the time, because we were coming back from the pandemic, we were having quorum issues, right?
We still have quorum issues.
Exactly. We still have quorum issues, and again, it's one of the initiatives that we had to amend the bylaws, but we haven't gotten to that point. But at the time, we were having quorum issues to meet, and there was a lot of discussion about maybe why not? Why can't we participate virtually and all that? And at the time, that was why the board felt necessary to pass this resolution, to make it clear that you have to be in person to be counted.
Just to follow up, how many times has this board failed to meet quorum in this last year,
There was,
last 2 years, I guess, since the policy was implemented.
Sorry, I have a little bit of an explanation. At that point, we were not aware that since we were three, that we could have virtual participation. But now when the legal came and told us that since it's three of us, that
3 counties.
the 3 counties, that we are allowed to do virtual meetings. So that's where it's conflicting with.
I guess go back to the, thank you for that, appreciate that. So just going back to the question, how many times have we failed to meet quorum under the policy?
Right.
Not TOMA, but under the policy.
so we've only not met quorum once, right? That was last year.
Last April or May, something like that. Remember, it was a meeting that Eduardo was participating remotely.
Yeah.
And we were one short here for 20 minutes.
So once in the last 4 years since the policy was implemented, how many meetings did not meet quorum prior to the policy?
I don't remember any since I've been around, but of course, in 2020, because of the pandemic, we had a lot of meetings that were virtual. And coming out of the pandemic, when the governor reinstated the Open Meetings Act, the provisions in September of 21, remember that we were struggling.
So, as the previous chair, I mean, we'd have to wait half an hour, 45 minutes, every MPO to meet quorum. All that to say is we have missed one MPO meeting because of, since the policy change. I guess my question is, what problem are we trying to fix if we are meeting quorum? Yes, it's inconvenient to those that show up on time and to the public that's waiting. But I guess what are we trying to fix?
Well, the immediate problem was to make sure that everybody understands, board members and the public, that we have that policy, but at the same time that the Open Meetings Act allows for virtual. So the intent of bringing this is to make sure that for clarification, there is that policy, or that we can, the board can choose to keep it in place as is, which again requires in-person participation to count as present, or modify it. As staff, we recommend keeping the policy because again, we like people, the board members, to be here in person. I believe that the discussion is always healthier when we do it in person. At the same time, I understand that many of the board members, it's a long drive from the Far East or coming in from New Mexico and so on. So, but that's why it's not an easy answer. But we recommend as staff to keep the policy to meet in person.
I do want to add to that argument is that for me, for example, I don't have a large staff that maybe some other cities might have or other entities. So I do have to travel sometimes. For example, when the legislation is going on, I don't have a lobbyist. I go do that for the city in Santa Fe. And having this access in January, February, March allows me to be able to do my responsibilities up in Santa Fe and also attend here. And that won't count my absences. After missing having so many absences and our ability to cast a vote on my end, this would help remedy that particular issue for the city of Sutherland Park.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner, yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'd also like to say, look at this meeting, for example. I had already let them know ahead of time that I was going to be able to make this meeting due to a personal lab work that I have to go do. And I still got a call yesterday to say, please, could you be on so we can have quorum? So without this capability, like right now with the individuals that are on, we wouldn't have quorum. And then all of you who end up showing up there would have wasted your time and your energy to be there. So I think that we need to leave it as is. Unless those of you don't mind not having quorum when you show up. So,
It's a problem.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Yes, I just wanted to echo, the staffing for the smaller municipalities. I'm the mayor for the city of Anthony, and in our form of government, we operate under mayor council. So this affords me the availability to attend the meetings and stuff like that. But if we were to having to operate in person, that would be a big challenge to myself, especially, and to individuals from smaller forms of government. Right now, I'm working on staffing. It's my first term, and those of us that have been here for more than one term know the first term struggles of staffing. So I also want to urge, that this availability allows for my municipality to participate. But if we were to move not to have them virtual, I don't think that we would be participating as much as we would want to.
Thank you, Mayor. So can we take this to the executive committee and then maybe come back with an idea? Objections?
I support.
All right, that works. Well, look, can we jump to the next item?
All right. So again, the action is to, no action today, but to.
Action today.
Okay, perfect. All right, so then I think we can go back to item number 1, back to the original order. Item number 1 is consider approval of the minutes of the February 2026 TPB meeting.
Moving on to the motion to approve item number 1. I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Motion has been seconded. Discussion by the board? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Abstentions. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 1 has been approved. Item number 2.
Item number 2 is review the Executive Director's Annual Performance Assessment for year 2025, including the Executive Director's Self-Performance Assessment for year 2025. Do you want to take that one and
I believe everyone received the information, the summary. Is there a need to go into closed session? On this one, it's just a matter of accepting the review. I want to entertain a motion to accept the executive director's review. So moved. I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second. Motion has been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Abstentions. Motion carries unanimously. Item 2 has been approved or accepted.
All right. Item number 3 is consider action on the Executive Director's Employment Agreement. Same thing.
Same thing on this one. I should have received in advance. The only change on there was for, instead of a 2-year term, it'll be a 3-year term. And then with 2 1-year extensions. Is that correct?
I believe it's just a
3 years? Okay, my apologies. Just the 3-year term. The original contract that we had with the Eduardo was a 2-year term with the 1-year extensions. And then we're also proposing, with recommendation from the executive committee, with a 3% pay increase for Eduardo. We need to go into closed session to discuss that. Move to approve. Motion on the floor made to approve. Is there a second? Motion has been seconded. We have a roll call. No, not a roll call. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Abstentions. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 4.
Right. Item 4 is consider renewal of the legal services agreement between El Paso MPO and Camp Smith LLP.
This is just a 1-year extension on this contract. It's already been in place. No changes to the contract.
Mr. Chair. Do I need to abstain because we use Camp Smith for the El Paso Transportation Authority?
I wouldn't think so because you're not personally, you don't have a personal conflict of interest with it.
I do not.
So I don't think you have to. That's a discretion that you have to take. Yes, sir.
Is it the same attorney?
Yes, it is.
Same firm.
Same attorney.
Is it the same attorney? Is it Deborah Trejo?
No, Nicholas.
Okay. It is you, Nicholas?
I would suggest that you abstain. I mean, not that we foresee any conflict, but I think it would be best, just because I do represent, the MPO. I'm sorry, EPEP.
Is that not a conflict? Oh, we get a legal opinion?
Let me consult with myself. Really, it would only be.
You need to confer?
Get outside counsel on this one?
I mean, just for this exact situation, we actually got a second attorney to represent us when it comes to El Paso MPO matters.
Should there be any issues that arise where where EPATS is adverse to the MPO? We don't foresee that, but I mean, that's the barrier that we put in place, just in case.
Okay. I think maybe we have that documented.
Absolutely.
I'll leave it to your discretion.
I think I'll abstain. Just, I don't want to create any.
At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 4.
I so move.
I have a motion on the floor. Any second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And I do have one abstention. All right.
So I believe that completes all the action items. So
We were on a mission. We got a reports and discussion. Item 13.
all right, so item 13 is report on fiscal year 2027 UTP funding projections and fiscal constraint. We have here a presentation from Ann Gallante. Oh, that's right. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start. Key it off here. As you know, the Unified Transportation Program is a document that TxDOT puts together to provide us a sort of like a guide for funding for the next 10 years. So currently, TxDOT is working on the fiscal year 27 UTP in draft form, which will be approved by the commission. It's anticipated approval in August, but it gives us a pretty good idea of what the funding is. But I think it's important to put everything, the funding situation into perspective. And can you pull it up, Andres? I borrowed a presentation that was put together by one of our colleagues from Grayson County MPO, which is just north of the Dallas area. And well, they put it up. It gives a historical perspective on funding, looking at a few years back, the value, the dollar amounts of the UTP, and it's really interesting when you see the impact of inflation. In other words, when you put the dollar amounts in the UTP again at the state level, the big number, when you put it into context in real terms with accounting for inflation, even though the dollar amount goes up, but in real terms, it's really coming down. So next slide, please. So again, historically starting in 2016, in nominal terms, the trend has been up, right? So we had a really big spike in 2019, 2020, and then in 2022, 23, 24, the combination of IIJA coming in at the federal level, combined with really healthy state revenue coming from Propositions 1 and 7. So it was really good. We were really happy in 23 and 24, 25, 26 came down a little bit, but still it's not too shabby, right? We're in the ballpark of about $100 billion for the 10 years at the state level. Next slide. At the same time, look at the population for the state of Texas. It's been growing pretty steadily, right? We're getting a lot more people into the state of Texas. Next slide. Right. So when you put together the UTP values, right, and then the red line is population increase. Again, this is in nominal terms. It looks okay. Well, we have more money. Population grows. Next slide. But when you put it in accounting for inflation, we are getting less money, right? Accounting again for inflation, especially in the last 4 or 5 years with such high inflation overall, but also inflation specifically in the highway construction business. So the trend is not really good, right? So next slide. And again, you put the two together. The bars show the values in constant terms going down, population going up. So I guess the concern here is that we keep growing. There's a lot more demand for transportation in general terms, but in real terms, the dollar amounts that we have available are coming down. So again, there's been a lot of hyperbole with the increase in the UTP in the last few years as it was going up in dollar amounts. But again, inflation has been pretty steady, and you see the impact there. Next slide.
That's it.
I think that was it. Any thoughts or comments on that before we get into our details here?
No, the presentation said, Grayson County MPO, is that, what is that in reference to, or?
So again, I borrowed this from them. They put together, which again, it's not a very difficult exercise to do, but they had it already. And but I thought it was a great, very simple way to show that yeah, I mean, we need to continue fighting for more funding for transportation, especially now that we are in the process. Well, Congress is looking at the reauthorization on the federal side, right? The IIJA expires at the end of this fiscal year, and the new bill that is being discussed right now in Congress, hopefully will give us a healthy amount of money. This again at the federal level, and there's a lot of discussions that we will bring to you in the next couple of years to put it into perspective. And again, if you all, I'm sure that all of you are familiar with those discussions. I know that there was a discussion at this week. Mayor, was that the conference that you attended with all was it the League of Cities or?
I didn't go to that one in particular, but.
Okay, right. So, there's discussion, again, the EPMPO, which is the National Association of MPOs, is also putting a position paper. AASHTO, which is the state, the Departments of Transportation as well. And there's healthy discussions, right? Healthy, not everybody is 100%, in agreement of what the bill should be, right? There's the issues that discuss urban transportation versus rural, emphasis on highway construction versus more multimodal transit and other things. So it's a very complicated but healthy discussion that's going on right now. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. So can we have the next part?
Good morning, Chair and board members. Ann Gallante, El Paso MPO. I'm going to be going over the specifics of the 2027 UTP in comparison to what we were assuming for our 10-year projection in 2026, and the impact that's going to have on our project list. Next slide, please. All right, so relative to fiscal year 2026, our projections did go down a bit. We lost category 10 CRP entirely for fiscal years 2027 and 2028. We were assuming, based on previous year's assumption, that was going to be $3 million per year to fund congestion reducing type projects, very similar to what the CMAQ category allows in terms of projects programmed. More impactful is the fact that we will also be losing about $3 million per year in category 7. That's our most flexible category. That's the one where we can program the projects that widen or expand or increase capacity on roadways. So we lose $12 million, which is slightly offset by a one-time distribution of funds through the TIFIA program, which is where entities that take out SIB loans, it's the money that they pay back, and a portion of that gets distributed as MPOs. We're not assuming that that's going to be an annual thing. We're assuming that's going to be a one-time thing. That we got $3 million of that, and that helps to partially offset the losses of our category 7 funding. That brings our total loss for the TIP years to $9 million. But for the entirety of the 10-year projection that's covered by the UTP, our loss is above $30 million for the entirety of that timeline. For perspective, we were getting about $26 million a year in category 7. So that's essentially losing more than an entire year of funding in these new projections versus what we used to create the project list last year with the 2026 funds. In category 5, we actually went up very, very slightly. Like I think we gained about $15,000 for the entirety of the TIP years. But what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to use category 5 to make ourselves whole on the $6 million of programming that we lost for category 10 CRP. So we have created a strategy where by simply moving certain projects back each year of the UTP years, we are able to still afford to fund everything, to remain in fiscal constraint, not have to defund any projects, not have to diminish the funding to any projects, but simply every year we're going to be pushing a couple of things back to the next year in order to keep ourselves whole and keep ourselves being able to program all of the projects that we had committed to. So this shows category 5. We're not necessarily going to dwell on it too much, but it shows the impact. We, it's virtually identical, and we can't really do that much more with $15,000 versus before, but it's nice to have. Next slide, please. This is where we kind of took the big hit. This is on category 7 STP. This is where we lose about $3 million a year, slightly offset. So we are total loss of about $9 million during the TIP years, 30 million again during the entire UTP. Next slide, please. And then we had about $6 million. We had programmed that about down to the dollar, and all gone. So that is why we have to amend projects that were programmed in category 5 as well to absorb what was programmed under category 10. Next slide, please. All right, so I'm not really going to necessarily read you all of these slides. These are in your backup, but this talks about where on each of the slides for the UTP years, this shows based upon what we had programmed when we used the new anticipated funding levels, it says what the deficit would have been, what projects we are going to move, and the positive balance that creates. And it's basically a project or two moving each year, one or two Cat 5s, one or two Cat 7s through the entirety of the UTP years. We also, through the positive balances we created, and this is something that we did do with an ad hoc committee comprised of TPAC members, we were able to program the HERO, the TxDOT HERO program for fiscal years 29 and 30 at about $2 million per year. So we were able to do that with the help of the ad hoc committee that we convened after TPAC. In order to ensure that the strategy that staff had come up with was acceptable from a project standpoint and acceptable to entity priorities. So if anybody wants, we can look at the specific years and what's moving, but if not, That's in your backup, as is a chart kind of showing the year by year and of, for each category, for what we were assuming in 2026, which was a bit more optimistic versus what we're now assuming in 2027 based on the draft UTP numbers.
Chair, I'd like to see it.
Go ahead.
If we could see that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next slide. So 2027, we're fine based off of carryover. Where we start to see issues is in fiscal year 2028, where we would have been over-programmed by $5 million of Category 7 and all of Category 8. So we're talking about, so the strategy now is to move the Montwood and Sunfire Roundabout to 2029.
We'll continue. We just lost quorum, so we can't really do dialogue.
Oh, this is, okay.
And we'll just continue on with the report.
Yeah, this is a report item. And we would be moving Tierra Este Phase 1 to 2029 as well. And we also, this is also showing the funding that that is distributed through the TIFIA program. This is showing how that's going to be distributed. We had the HERO program from TxDOT fully funded with CAT 10, so it's going to get $2 million of that. And then the remaining balance is going to go towards playa drain, and we're also moving a UTEP transit project to Category 5. 2020. Let's get next slide, please. So we would be postponing the McRae shared use path to 2030, and we would be the Montwood round and Sunfire roundabout that had been postponed from 2028 would be present in this year. We also had a sponsor request to move Paul Harvey Park Trail up from 2030 to 2029, which we're able to accommodate through this strategy. The Tierra Este project from 2028, and then programming HERO. And then this nets us a positive balance of $15,000. So kind of small, but positive. All right, 2030. Let's go to the next slide, please. So Paul Harvey, as discussed on the previous slide, it got advanced. And then moving out, we would be postponing Edgemere and John Hayes Roundabout, as well as Bob Hope. Those would be moving into 2031. And then from 2029, we gain the McRae shared use path. We can look at 2031. 2031 gains Edgemere Don Hayes Roundabout and Bob Hope. Now we can look at 2032. No proposed changes. And then that remains the case. And then the next year where we actually need to see changes in order to make ourselves whole is 2035. And this we had basically we were a whole year short of funding. So we are proposing to move the Texas Avenue Complete Streets back 1 year to 2036 and take that $23 million deficit and give us a positive balance of $8 million. And so those are the extent of the proposed changes. So essentially for these projects proposed, it's the difference between a May letting and an October letting. And that is how we are proposing to keep ourselves whole. And I think you wanted to say something about the regional prioritization project.
Right. All right, well, we can't have discussion, right, on this? Okay. Well, again, just to ratify what Ann said, every year with a new UTP, we come up with we're provided, different dollar amounts. What we're definitely trying to do always is in the tip years, keep those projects whole, because those are the ones that are being, are almost ready for construction or are getting ready for construction. The ones that are in the outer years, where there hasn't been a lot of activity here, a lot of project development activities and so on, there's still room to, move them around to adjust because we do have to be fiscally constrained by year. And again, these are categories 5 and 7, which are the two big federal categories that the MPO really has control, right? The dollar amounts that come in for categories 5, 7, and 9, for that matter, which is the TASA, those are the dollar amounts that are provided by the federal government to the MPOs, right, directly. The other categories like 2, 4, and 12 are really truly a combination of state and federal funding. So there's a little bit more flexibility there. But TxDOT has chosen to keep the federal categories 5 and 7 at the levels that are provided by the federal government directly without supplementing them, or it'd be great if we could get a little more for Cat 7 because that's a category that we can use off system, right? The other the other categories, 2, 4, 12, and pretty much are the big ones, can only be used for on-system projects, for TxDOT projects. That's why we've been, deliberately trying to not put category 7, for example, on TxDOT projects, so that we can keep that precious Cat 7 for the local government projects. There's a couple of exceptions there, but that's been sort of like the if not policy, but it's been what we've tried to do, and it's worked out pretty well, I guess. Anyway, so we can have any discussion on that. All right, so then moving on to item 14, which is the update on analysis of the travel demand model for the RMIS 2052 MTP. I'm going to tee it off here, and then I'm going to pass the presentation to Lauren Taylor from a WSP, which is our consultant in that is helping us with developing this work. So for the 2052 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the MTP is one of the core documents that I would argue that it's the most important document that the MPO produces. It's our long-range plan that includes, that is developed based on population and employment projections. How is this region going to grow? We must have at least 20 years into the future. So our horizon year this time is 2052. So that by the time this plan is approved and then we have 4 years of working on it, we'll always be looking at more than 20 years into the future. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Lauren. If you're there, I don't know if you're controlling the screen or.
Yes, I am. So good morning, everyone, and thank you, Eduardo.
I think we can't hear you, Lauren.
Oh. Well, you can hear me now.
Oh, yeah, turn it up then. Okay.
Great, good morning. So hopefully you can hear me. It's not a meeting without a few technical issues, but thank you, Eduardo, for teeing that off. So as Eduardo mentioned, I'm here today to help really discuss where we're at with the MTP. So as you can see on the milestone schedule right now, we're in the process of drafting the document that it can be available for public and obviously this board's consumption. Today, what I specifically want to talk about are projects as well as how those projects within the MTP that have been identified are performing. So here you can see that as it stands today, the MTP's fiscally constrained project list represents about $6.7 billion worth of funds, and that's encompassing about 151 roadway and 23 transit projects. So a very large investment into the future. And in the coming slides, I'll be able to discuss what that investment looks like. I think related to the discussion that both Eduardo and Ann just had about the UTP need for fiscal constraint and funding, never being enough is what you need. We did want to note that there are 19 projects that have been identified as important to the region, but could not be fiscally constrained. All right, so going into future conditions. So what you see on the screen here is an analysis of how 2022 base year is performing amongst various metrics, and then how that compares to a scenario where no improvements are completed in 2052 horizon year, where and then what the projects that have been included in the NTP 2052 do. So from a vehicle miles travel perspective, or VMT, what you're seeing for the base year of 2022 versus the no build scenario is that there's an increase. And I think that speaks to population growth as well as just development and employment growth that's happening in the region. And that's under the no build scenario. Under the build scenario, we also are seeing an increase in that vehicle miles traveled about 3%. And again, this is just acknowledging the fact that population is growing, and so that means that more people are traveling. That same 3% change just in a per capita perspective for VMT, you also see 3% if you compare the no build to the build scenario. And again, I'll emphasize that no build means that $6.7 billion worth of investment in future 2052 is not occurring, and build assumes that that is being implemented. I will note that what you'll see is that if you do nothing from a speed perspective, so comparing that maybe to equivalent of congestion, is that in 2022, speed is 41 miles per hour. If you do nothing, you definitely decrease the speed, and again, using that as a correlate to congestion. And so by building projects in 2052 and then investment, you are seeing a betterment of speed in 2052. Again, I'll note that just due to employment and population growth, there is a difference between today or 2022 and the build. What we
Lauren,
also see is.
Lauren, let me interrupt here, just to make sure that you all understand, the scenarios that we're showing here. Okay, so 2022 is our base year, and those are the conditions that we had in 2022, right? So 2052, no build means that we grow the population, we grow employment, but we build nothing. Right? So, I mean, obviously, it's not a realistic scenario, but it gives us a point of reference. And then you compare it to the 2052 build, which is when we implement the $6.7 billion of projects, what is the effect? I mean, that's the MTP, right? And of course, the last column is the changes. But what is very significant here is that when you look at measures like VMT. VMT is vehicle miles of travel, right? So if you add up all of the distances that every vehicle travels, that's the regional VMT, right? So we go from 19 in 2022 with a build condition to almost 22 miles. What this means is that every vehicle in the region is going to travel 3 more miles every day, every vehicle, which means that we need to provide more transportation, right? So this is really, the core really of the issues that we see for the region going into the future. It's an indication of the sprawling pattern that we have in the region, right? We're not growing that quickly population-wise, right? Percentage-wise, but we are expanding. So that's not a really good thing for us in speaking as a transportation person, right? Because now we need to provide more highways, more public transportation. There's more demand, right? So even after $6 billion, look at also for example, the average speed, right? So the average speed goes from 41 miles per hour to 39. So it's going down, right? So we're not improving it, right? That means that even with all the projects that we're building, there's going to be more congestion, right? So at the regional level, it's not a really great thing. So again, it's a call for action, I think, right? As a region, we need to figure out how to control that sprawling pattern, right? Where we continue building, more, especially, single family units in the outskirts, right? And people keep working in the same place. So now, I'm generalizing, right? But now, you live farther out, but you work in the same place. So that explains the 3 additional miles that you have to travel to do your everyday life activities, right? So it's one thing that we've been talking about here, and it's not just a phenomenon here in El Paso, right? It's throughout Texas especially, but in other parts of the country as well, that there's really no strong connection between land use decision-making and transportation decision-making. We here at the MPO, we don't control land use decisions, right? We don't. So development happens, right? Driven by, market forces, developers go out and develop, and then, there is congestion because there's not enough transportation in those new areas, and here we are. Now we see a lot of congestion on the far east side of the county, right? The East Lake interchange, Horizon City interchanges with I-10 because of growth on both sides of I-10, right? Anyway, so that's, I think, one of the most important things that we want to bring up. And it's not that we like it, right? Well, for myself, I don't like it, but these are the trends that we need to plan for, right? Well, as you will see later on in the presentation, there are some ideas that we have here that we can collectively, consider going into the future. So,
Yeah.
go ahead, Lauren.
No, thanks, Eduardo. I think that does tee up what we're seeing here as far as metrics are concerned. And I mean, as part of this, just not to belabor the point, but we did also look at transit, so mode share, to see if that could be improved. And with the no build scenario, I think it's just worth noting that ridership goes down as far as a mode that's being utilized. But with the transit specific investments in 2052, we do see a maintenance of what that mode share looks like. And then we've also just provided some information about emissions as well. I do want to maybe move to what Eduardo was talking about with the relationship between land use and transportation. So as part of what we were reviewing for the MTP is, what does a vision of the future look like, where municipalities do consider land use as they're thinking about transportation, as well as what does it look like to have a major investment in transit. So what you're seeing on the screen here is what we've called a visionary alternative future scenario. So what this looks at is that there's no roadway projects that are included as part of this. But what are included are 5 new bus rapid transit or BRT corridors, as well as the existing 4 RTS corridors being converted to bus rapid transit or BRT. And so for those that might not know what BRT is, what that looks like is express transit that allows people to go far and go fast, and dedicated, often bus lanes with technologies like signal priority to ensure that those buses are not sitting in the same congestion as, let's say, a single occupancy vehicle. Related to the land use component, what this visionary scenario also looks at is really concentrating development along these transit corridors, as well as stations that might exist. So it's saying, what do we look like if we're not just sprawling in our development, but really try to focus densification, and specifically, so looking at more multifamily homes, mixed use. What does that look like if we really focus development in those specific locations? I'll also note that as part of this visionary scenario, to make transit a more attractive, viable option for individuals, this did assume a reduced fare of 60 cents. So I'll pause before I go through some of the employment and population visionary and versus our build and base here, and see, Eduardo, anything you wanted to add there?
Well, again, this is a scenario, we called it visionary, when we initially started discussing it internally with MPO staff, I called it La La Land scenario because it is really, it's a completely 100% aspirational, right? So on the demand side, concentrating population and employment along certain corridors so that we can increase density, right? When you have more density, transit works a lot better, right? So if we combine higher density with BRT lines as you see there, and that's not a proposal or anything. This is just like an example of what could happen, right? Under this scenario, of course, 5-minute headways, you have one BRT articulated bus every 5 minutes. I mean, that's great, right? And, having reduced fares and all that. So all of these favorable conditions, right? What happens, right? So do we go? Oh, of course.
I just wanted to add that when we say that it's necessary to densify, it's not that we force densification, but we allow through upzoning of these areas, this black and red dots, we allow some upzoning. That means allowing higher density development. What we introduce that information and this, this headways and this service into a land use model. So it's not that we made up what you're going to see right now. It's allowing the forces of the market, understanding what's, what's offered, supply and demand of land, plus the willingness of businesses to relocate to this type of transit-oriented development. That's what the land use model does for us. So we're not making this up. We're using very sophisticated software to estimate where population, in this case households, and employment could allocate if we allow this upzoning and we allow this type of transportation projects. Just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. And so I think that's a good segue to see what that household and employment information would look like. So what you're looking at here is a dot density map where in blue, one dot represents 50 households and the red dots represent employment, so 50 jobs in that location. So this is the basic in 2022 household employment. So what you can see is some of that sprawling development that we already know exists, and major roadways, there's some concentration of households and jobs. Now, when we compare that to the build scenario, so again, just to reiterate, build in this instance means the $6 billion plus worth of investments that have been identified for the MTP. Those darker blue and red dots are showing new households and employment. And so earlier, as Eduardo was talking about VMT, right, and the additional miles traveled per person in the build scenario, that's due to the sprawl in part that you're seeing here. So this, again, the MPO is not in the business of dictating land use, right? So this is what we see if there's not that consideration of land use and transportation. Now, when you compare that to the visionary scenario, you see that the concentration of household and jobs is really more focused. And if I were to bring back up the map of the visionary scenario where there's the BRT routes as well as the station locations, you can really see that growth is being concentrated along those corridors. And so it shows that if you were in this modeling effort, this is from our modeling, it's showing that an investment in transit with no other improvements to the roadway would allow for more concentration, which could be less vehicle miles traveled, for instance. So with that, just going back to the metrics that we were showing earlier, so kind of getting into what I started talking about. So let's talk about VMT. What you're seeing with the visionary scenario that we've added on here is that 2020 Two, just looking at the per capita VMT, again, we're at about 19 miles. And then in the visionary scenario, you do see an increase in vehicle miles traveled, but by no means as great as, let's say, the no build scenario. So even with investments strictly in transit, and that concentration of development along those transit locations, what you're seeing there is that the lack of sprawl really helps reduce the amount of travel that folks would have to do in the future as in comparison to the no build and build scenarios. I won't go through each of the metrics. I guess Eduardo, Salvador, if there are any that you guys want to specifically point out, I think that would be a good time for you guys to share this.
Yes, I would just say that, of course, this is just one scenario. It's not the official one. We just wanted to test what would happen, but it's very interesting to see that the yellow, it's sort of like a no build plus transit, just that, plus upzoning. It's quite competitive. Look at the mode share. I don't know if Sun Metro is here, but just the mode share jumps from less than 1% to more than 10%. That helps us actually reduce. That's the one with the least emissions of all of the other scenarios. Look, 6.3 right now with the build 2.4. Actually, the visionary 2.2. So, and I was just the map that you saw. BRT is about 85 miles of BRT. That's about an investment around. Don't quote me, but it's going to be around $500 million. So it's at least food for thought. If this is not it's not the official one, but perhaps we need to think hard and rethink again what we want to El Paso to look into the future.
Thank you, Sal. So what does those, and we've got a few different other metrics here. Again, I won't go through each of these just due to time as well, but what you're seeing is an improvement for congestion, delay in freight corridors, major freight corridors, and then that transit share that we talked about. With the visionary, you're definitely seeing an improvement, but even with ability, you also are seeing an improvement in congestion as well as delay. This is just intended to show level of service. I know it might be a little bit small in the room, but just reiterating the fact that the improvements identified as part of the MTP do make a difference in this level of service, or what this looks like as the comparison of free flow traffic versus complete traffic jam. So from A to F here. So you are seeing an improvement there. So what are the key takeaways that we want to leave you? Proposed improvements as part of the MTP are making a difference in regional mobility. There's still some challenges, but we are seeing that the investment is going to be worth it. And that if you do not do anything, right, if there's no changes made, that's going to be a problem. But what we're also seeing, especially when we're looking at the aspirational or visionary scenarios, that really the idea of both land use and transportation being considered together is incredibly important, and funding. The discussion before this one was related to the UTP and funding not keeping up with population, but all of those are really necessary to ensure that the regional transportation system is performing well for El Pasoans and the region. I think another important note here is just that as part of the MTP project selection process, it really needed and required a balance between project types as well as where are the projects being met. So not all the projects are at capacity. Some allow for state of good repair, looking at operational improvements as well as pavement. Cure program has been mentioned as well, but balancing that truly with what funds are available. We also are seeing that if you are providing improvements and investments for the project that we're seeing here, that really does allow for more access to transit and other multimodal options. I think another thing, it's easier to see if you were to go back to the slide, but major freight corridors, and I don't think I need to tell people in this room, but the I-10s of the region, for instance, really the delay that's happening along those corridors is outpacing general congestion levels. And so there may need to be additional review and consideration of those corridors just to ensure that freight and good movements are being addressed and working through the region appropriately. With that, what are the next steps? So again, we've just presented here the results of the travel demand model for both the projects that have been identified and selected, as well as this aspirational and visionary scenario. What we'll also be doing is right now finalizing the draft MTP, as well as the transportation conformity report. Once those are ready for circulation, we'll be coming back to both TPAT and the board just to get y'all's approval able to circulate those to the public. And with that approval, we'll be conducting a public meeting as well as an open house and a comment period that allows for the public and obviously folks in the room to provide feedback on what that 24-year horizon looks like. With that, any questions or I guess ending remarks from Eduardo?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So we can't have any discussion or questions, but I think it was important for you to hear this today, even though we can't have discussions, because next month we're going to bring you for action the final draft documents of the MTP, the conformity documents, and so on, so that we can begin the 30-day public comment period. So, we thought that it was important for you all to see at least, the basics of what this MTP is doing, but in preparation for the request next month for you all to give us a green light to start the public comment period. Because again, we are on a timeline, we're on a schedule, and at the end of the day, what we need to have is a conformity approval by November. And the way that the discussions and approvals are going on right now with the Federal Highway Administration and FTA, because of with this new administration, it's taking forever to get anything done. So we do not want to delay this anymore, to provide as much time as we can to meet that November 26 deadline. All right. So
Really quick. The presentation given was a little different from what we have in the backup. Could we get that?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that was even tweaked today at 3 a.m, Lauren?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so then let's move on to the other items. We have item 15, the quarterly reports, administrative amendments report, project completion report, project readiness report, and the RMS 2020 projects report. All of these are on your backup. Again, we can't have any discussion anyway, so let us know if you have any questions or thoughts on this. But I think everything looks pretty much under control. There's nothing major that we need to address. And then finally, the executive director's report, item 16. Just very briefly, 2 items that are related with our international border crossings strategic plan. So in February, we had a good meeting in Ciudad Juarez that was organized by CODER, which is one of the economic development organizations in Juarez. And they invited me to make a presentation. We had about 70 people out there, mostly people from, well, it was a good combination from the chambers, Canaco, Canacintra, people from the trucking industry, from the maquilas, Index, Southwest Maquilas, etc. So this was really good. We got really good input as far as ideas so that we can make our strategic plan better. So that was a very successful meeting. And then the Binational Bridges and Border Crossing Group, we call BBBXG, The plenary meeting is happening next month, April 8th and 9th in Washington, DC. BBBXG is organized, it's put together by the two federal governments, the U.S. Department of State and Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores are the agencies that take the lead on these. And BBBXG looks at more focused on projects on the border, right? Whether it's, new crossings or expansions or whatever. And so I will be attending that. Internally, we've had a discussion that it would be a good idea to present where we are on our strategic plan to show that, what we are planning or what we're intending to do here in this region. Typically, all of the border regions along the U.S.-Mexico border attend the plenary session. Mayor Perea, you've been there, I think, or your staff, right? So it's an important meeting. So I'll be there and I'll let you know what happens next month. So with that, I guess we're done.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. I don't have a quorum.